Hello race fans and welcome to McPutin International Speedway. We have a beautiful day here in the desert that's going to be just perfect for racing. As you can see.
In this video, I'm going to show you how to build the starter light system I made for this racetrack. The track itself was designed and built by McPutin. A link to his channel, Rust McRacing, is provided in the description below. There's more than one way to design a circuit for racetrack starting lights, and I wouldn't be at all surprised to learn that there are better ways than the one I came up with. If you have suggestions to make this circuit better, or if you have links to other starting light circuits, feel free to post them in the comments section. I am not a Rust electricity expert. I knew just enough about these particular components to throw them up on a wall in my base and see if I could come up with a circuit that fit my needs. What I wanted was 4 lights, 3 red and 1 green, that, upon activating, would power on all 3 red lights and then turn them off one at a time in a delayed sequence, followed by the green light powering on. At first, I envisioned the lights arranged vertically, like a drag racing Christmas tree. But considering that the track was lined with netted wall frames, there wasn't a place to put a vertical arrangement of lights. McPutin decided on half walls above the track, which turned out to be a good decision. Not only did it provide a clean and clear backdrop for the lights, but the reverse side gave me a very convenient location to place the components, and having everything in close proximity made setup and troubleshooting a breeze. McPutin requested that there be 2 sets of lights, as he wanted the track to be usable in either direction. At the time of this video's production, the server has wiped and the track is no more. So I'll show you how I built the circuit using this mock-up of the racetrack. I'll build a single set of lights and then afterwards I'll show you the few more steps needed to add a second set. One set of lights only uses 9 power, so it can be run with a small battery. Powering 2 sets of lights, one for each direction, can be easily managed by 2 small batteries or a medium battery. In addition to your power source, you will need the following components: 1 switch, 1 button, 1 splitter, 5 branches, 1 blocker, 4 timers, 3 red industrial lights, and 1 green industrial light. The cost to make these components is 1,145 metal fragments. Understanding how this circuit works may save you some trouble when it comes time to building it on a half wall above the track. The best way for me to explain this circuit is by building it on a full wall like I did when I first created it. The extra space and use of colored wires will go a long way toward dispelling any confusion. My object was to create a circuit that would power on 3 red lights, then shut them off one at a time in a delayed sequence, and then power on a green light. From my previous experience with Rust electricity, I knew that I could achieve a delayed sequence by using timers. A splitter could provide power to the toggle-on inputs of 3 timers, which would then send power to the 3 red lights. I knew that I would need a way to power a 4th light, but I would do some experimenting with the circuit in this state to make sure that I was on the right track. But I'd first need to supply the timers with power from some branches. The first branch would supply power to the button, and the next 4 branches would send power to the timers. A timer can be activated in 2 ways. You can press E while looking at it, or you can send power to the toggle-on input. Once activated using either method, the switch will provide power until its timer runs out. You can set the timer anywhere from 0.25 seconds to 1 billion seconds, which converts to just over 31.5 years, which is odd considering that the longest wipe cycle is 1 month. So far, so good. But what about the green light? With all 3 of the splitter's outputs in use, how would I toggle on the green light's timer from the same button push that sent power to the red light timers? I could add a branch before the splitter, giving me 1 more output, or I could remove the splitter entirely and use 4 branches. But I would soon realize that I could toggle on the green light's timer from the pass-through of one of the red lights. There was one problem left to solve. While I could easily shut off 1 red light at a time by setting their timers to different increments, I needed the green light to be off on button press, and only turn on after the 3rd red light shut off. From my experience making lighting systems that automatically turn on at night, then turn off in the daylight, I knew that I could use a blocker to reverse what normally happens when an electrical component receives power. A blocker has an input to receive power, an output to pass on power, and a block pass-through. When the blocker receives any amount of power through its block pass-through, the power out is blocked. I connected the power out of the last branch to the blocker input, then out of the blocker and into the green light. Then I connected the power out of the green light timer into the block pass-through of the blocker. With the switch in the on position, power passes along through the outputs of these 5 branches into the blocker and on to the green light. When the button is pushed, additional power travels on through the splitter and into the toggle-on inputs of the 3 red light timers, allowing them to pass power on to the 3 red lights. When the 3rd light receives power, it sends some power through its pass-through into the toggle-on of the green light timer. And with the green light timer activated, it sends its power into the block pass-through of the blocker, which halts power to the green light. When this timer shuts off, the green light is illuminated. With the basic circuit working as it should, it was time to set the proper duration for each timer. I set the first red light timer to 3 seconds, the second one to 4 seconds, third one to 5 seconds, and the final timer to 6 seconds. When designing the circuit, the final step was to check all the branches and make sure that I wasn't using more electricity than I needed. I'll set these now based on what I learned. The branch out of this first branch needs to send 3 power through the button and on through the splitter to toggle on the 3 red light timers. The remaining 4 branches will send power to the 4 timer inputs, which will provide power to the lights. The first 2 timer branches will branch out 1 power each, but the 3rd branch will need to branch out 2 power, as its timer needs 1 additional rust watt to pass through the 3rd red light and toggle on the 4th timer. And the last branch will branch out 1 power. With the timers and branches set correctly, the circuit works as intended and has 6 power left to spare. If you have an attached base, or even just a TC 1x1, you can build this circuit on an inside wall, then just run wires to the button and to the lights on your half wall above the track. But if you want the components on the other side of that half wall for easier troubleshooting, we'll need to make a simple yet important change to the circuit. If the lights are placed on the wall opposite the components, then from the point of view of the component side of the wall, the lights are running right to left instead of left to right. Therefore, you will need to either crisscross the wires that power the 4 lights, or you will need to build the circuit from right to left instead of left to right. Crisscrossing will work, but I prefer to build the circuit in the other direction, so that each timer is directly behind the light that it's powering. Let's build the circuit on the half wall above the track. Decide where you want your switch and button installed. Installing the button on the track allows one of the racers to press the button and start the race. I run power from my source to the switch. If you are using a medium or a large battery, you may want to add a branch before the switch so you can tap off the excess power. Place the splitter, 4 timers, 5 branches, and the blocker. The power out from the switch will go to the power in of the first branch in the chain, which, in this configuration, is on the far right. And the branch out of the first branch will go to the power in of the button. Set the branch out of this branch to 3 power. Power out from the button goes to the splitter. I'm using different color wires to help you see the different parts of the circuit. To change wire color, press and hold R while holding the wire tool, and before you connect wire to any component. Then click on the color wire you want to use. Wire color does not affect the circuit in any way. Connect the splitter outputs to the toggle in of the 3 red light timers. Chain together the remaining branches by connecting the power out of one to the power in of the next. Connect the second branch to the input of the first timer and set its branch out to 1. Connect the timer out to the first red light. Connect the next branch to the next timer and set its branch out to 1. Connect the timer out to the second red light. Connect the next branch to the next timer and set its branch out to 2. Connect the timer out to the third red light. Connect the remaining branch to the green light timer and set its branch out to 1. Connect the power out of this branch to the power in of the blocker. Connect the power out of the blocker to the input of the green light. Connect the output of the timer to the block pass-through of the blocker. Connect the pass-through of the third red light to the toggle in of the green light timer. Set the first timer to 3 seconds, the second timer to 4 seconds, the third timer to 5 seconds, and set the green light timer to 6 seconds. Test the circuit. As you can see, it's more difficult to build this on a half wall and still have a circuit that's readily understandable. I made improvements by raising the timers and positioning their branches directly beneath them. Adding a second set of lights to the circuit is relatively easy, but it will now require 18 power to operate. If you've used a single small battery, you can add a second one with a root combiner. If you've used a medium or large battery and have added a branch between its output and your circuit, make sure that branch is sending at least 18 power to the switch. We'll need to add one more branch between the last branch and the blocker in order to send power to the other set of lights. I'll reposition the blocker to make room. Output the last branch to the input of the new branch. Connect the branch out of the new branch to the input of the blocker and set its branch out to 1. Reconnect the blocker out to the green light and reconnect the green light timer's output to the block pass-through of the blocker. The power out of the new branch will be used to send power to the second set of lights. Place the components on the other half wall, but this time we will only need 4 branches. Connect the power out from the last branch on the first set of lights to the first branch of your second set of lights. The button will now need to provide 3 power to 2 splitters. So add a branch after your button and set the branch out to 3. Connect the branch out to one splitter and the power out to the other. As you'll remember, this first branch on the first set of lights is sending 3 power to the button, so change its branch out to 6. Now the button will provide 3 power to each splitter. Chain the branches together and send the power out of the 4th branch to the power in of the blocker. Connect the branch out of each branch to the timer above it. Connect the first 3 timer outputs to the red lights. Configure your branches. Branch out 1 power. Branch out 1 power. Branch out 2 power. Branch out 1 power. Connect the output of the blocker to the green light. Connect the output of the green light timer to the block pass-through of the blocker. Connect the pass-through of the third red light to the toggle in of the green light timer. Don't forget to send power from the splitter outs to the toggle on input of the 3 red light timers. Test the circuit. Good. All right, let's rock and roll. Throughout all my years of PvE Rust, this racetrack was the most fun build I've ever experienced. It's very difficult to get anyone on a server to come and look at something you've built, let alone use it repeatedly. If you are looking for an engaging build that will be used by your server community again and again, I highly recommend building a racetrack. Props to McPutin for building this one. Content from this video was recorded on 3 servers. McPutin's racetrack footage was recorded on Bunny's Boom Boom Room during their September 2024 wipe. Some interior scenes were recorded on Intoxicated US Sandbox server. The majority of this video was recorded on Deviated Playgrounds. The 5x gather rate ensured that I spent less time farming and more time building. If you're a creator, you'll definitely want to check out this server. If you have any questions about this video or about any of my Rust videos, hit me up on the server or in their Discord. Thanks for watching.